Okay, this is getting out of hand. So a few months ago, I made the horrible mistake of playing Mario Kart World, and it was so underwhelming that after months of telling myself it wasn't that bad, getting my hands on it for the first time led me to the conclusion that the game was outright terrible, so terrible in fact that I had to make a video to set the record straight, because the positivity surrounding the game ranged from denial to disingenuous to outright lying. Listen here and listen good, yeah? This game released with 30 tracks, 2 less than base Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, which is already underwhelming, but that game at least had the excuse of being the first HD home console Mario Kart. But I'm not here to tell you that an $80 computer game for children is terrible for a second time, because upon further reflection, that description alone is a warning label for any financially responsible individual who hears it. Anyway, it's been several months since that video was posted, and for some reason I'm still getting comments from angry Nintendo fanboys because I was actually honest about the game instead of being happy for them. But what's strange about the comments now is that this is long after Sir Musty posted his reaction and his fans all left, so where are all these comments coming from? Well, a few weeks ago, I was at a dance rehearsal and one of my friends there told me that my video made its way to Reddit and they sent me the link. Now I know the number one thing you shouldn't do is look yourself up on the internet, but I just had to take a peek and yeah, it was about what I expected. If I were to sum up this thread in as few words as possible, I'd say Mario Kart World. Because in a vacuum, this alone doesn't offend me, rather the context which informs its mere existence disgusts me. And just like Mario Kart World is not worth engaging with beyond a cursory glance. I still think this is the worst Mario Kart World critique video I've ever watched. It's the name of the thread under Nintendo grifting. I also love the multiple layers of subtext on display here. First we have the implication that there's some conspiracy against Nintendo because we all agree that the games are bad. And I love to see the echo chamber allegations because Nintendo loyalists would walk into a hospital and call it an echo chamber because everyone in there agrees that diseases and injuries are bad. Then if you look at the title here, I still think this is the worst Mario Kart World critique video I've ever watched. The operative word here being still, which implies they've brought up my video before and they're still not over it yet, mainly because it's still relevant. And you already know that the instant this game gets updated in like 2028, I'll get flooded with aged like milk comments, even though videos like mine are directly responsible for unfinished games getting fixed in the future. I could go through and react to these comments, but none of them are particularly interesting. Just more people being upset that I didn't praise the $80 indie game. But I wanted to highlight one comment that took issue with me doubling down on my points, as if that's not what you're supposed to do when someone challenges your statement. I think the expected behavior on the internet is to continually run your mouth until you're met with the slightest bit of pushback, then back down from your argument and create a Reddit thread to find other people to validate your feelings. But I want to get into the more interesting topic that I hinted at in the beginning about context, and how the existence of this thread sums up everything wrong with Nintendo loyalists right now. I've said this before and I'll say it again, if the games are so good, why aren't you playing them? I moved on from Mario Kart World long ago on my main channel, and I've been having a blast playing Mario Kart Wii's Retro Rewind mod because I like actually playing games that I enjoy instead of complaining about other people for having standards. How underwhelming is Nintendo's output that you'd rather make a thread complaining about a 4K YouTube channel instead of actually playing the games? Frankly, the conversation about Nintendo isn't even about the games anymore. That conversation started with Mario Kart World and ended with Pokemon ZA, proving that the $70 and $80 price tag doesn't always guarantee a quality product from Nintendo, although Tears of the Kingdom's performance should have told you that back in like 2023. And as for the games that are well made, well, allegedly, Kirby Air Riders looks fine, but people have drawn far too many comparisons between Bonanza and the worst thing to happen to the 3D platformer genre since the FPS craze of the mid-2000s for me to confidently call it a good game. Actually, I would call it a good TM game with fluid controls and fun gimmicks that I wouldn't mind playing more of, which I was going to make a video about a few months back, but as many comments have pointed out previously, 2 hours isn't enough time to critique a video game, so that praise I gave to Bonanza just now, invalid, didn't happen. And to tie this back into that Reddit thread, which has Francis from Super Paper Mario as the icon, he's the guy with the infamous quote about people complaining about games they never played, which is funny because people have brought up that quote when talking about my video despite the fact that the quote says played, not bought, so... Anyway, they don't seem too interested in discussing the games that seem well designed because they're either hard at work, and I mean hard at work, defending the bad ones, or radio silent, which proves that the Switch 2 Defense Force, ooh, that name might stick, is more concerned about validating their poor purchasing decisions rather than discussing the quality of said purchase, which is why their only defense for the Switch 2 is sales numbers. And on the subject of sales, we need to talk about that because I've gotten a lot of comparisons to Nintending, so I want to make something crystal clear right now. I don't care about sales numbers, like, at all. I wish that I could care less about the financial status of a company that doesn't even know that I exist. I mean, the Switch 2 Defense Force cares more about me than Nintendo does them. But I don't need sales numbers and review scores to validate my purchasing decisions. My purchase will validate my purchasing decision. And if it doesn't, then it goes back to the store. Which is something I can't say about the Switch 2 Defense Force, whose enjoyment of not only games, but even life itself is determined by whether a Nintendo game sells well and gets good reviews. Too often do I see people brought to their knees because a game which you can beat in 10 hours that got repetitive after 30 minutes isn't praised as being a new frontier in the medium for the rest of time. And far too many times have I said that I don't like a game with the counter argument being,
actually it sold over 6 million copies.
as if I'm supposed to care about how many people willingly allow themselves to get scammed beyond acknowledging the apparent financial literacy crisis. Yet when I reply that a Roblox game broke a record for most concurrent players at once, they don't care. That's the point. That's how I feel when they say that. I also got a comment from a user talking about how they use their disposable income to overpay for a game, as if wasting your money just because you have extra to burn makes you look any less ridiculous. A punch to the face is still a punch to the face, whether it's done with the $10 glove or a $1,000 glove. And to those who insist that I and the other quote-unquote grifters can't take criticism when merely responding to your comments, which are always conveniently and retroactively labeled as rage bait with the callousness of a child calling timeout moments before they're about to get tagged, I want to talk about empathy for a second. Not for me, but I want those who have never been on the receiving end of these allegations to understand how hilarious it is to see how desperate these people are to get under your skin. Because their attempts are less like a tick and more like a tick goal? Really put yourselves in our shoes, right? Imagine you wake up to tens of hundreds of spam text messages parodying nonsense about how you're poor for being financially responsible, stupid for buying a device which can play more Nintendo games than Nintendo's own consoles, a fake fan for wanting better games, and a grifter for not falling for the grift. Now I know this sounds absolutely insane to anyone whose life hasn't been totally consumed by Nintendo, but it gets even better when you remember that this is the same crowd that purchased overpriced cardboard and is now paying $100 for Nintendo to give them a migraine. Yet I'm still getting comments of people telling themselves that I'm butthurt, but I literally do not have the capacity to feel butthurt at the decree of a community that eats game cartridges. And then there's the bots. And no, I'm not talking about Mario Kart World servers. Why did Nintendo pay some sketchy website to unleash a bunch of comment bots which rush to their defense on any video that's critical of the company? How desperate do you have to be for good coverage of your terrible games that you have to send comment bots to combat the negative feedback about your games? And I had my doubts at first, but when I saw the second bot with the exact same typing patterns and posting frequency, I knew it was a bot. And I'm saying Nintendo purchased these bots because I refuse to accept the reality where Nintendo fans purchase bots on the company's behalf. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that, but this also might be the worst way to launch a new channel because I literally said that the Mario Sunshine video was coming next, but I think it's fitting that this channel was immediately derailed by an entirely separate subject, which is what sparked its creation in the first place. But welcome, this is going to be my new destination for scripted videos by popular demand. I had no idea that my scripted stuff was going to take off like it did, so we'll be posting those here now. I don't really have anything remotely resembling an upload schedule for this channel, so video frequency is completely up in the air. I also can't even guarantee that the Sunshine video will be next because the AI bubble started imploding sooner than I thought. I've got an entire script written for a video covering why AI as a business venture is incompatible with late stage capitalism. It ties neatly into what we're seeing in the wider gaming industry, and it's a lot more palatable than I'm making it sound here. But if you enjoyed whatever this video was, then feel free to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. Help us get the channel off the ground. And I just realized I don't have a send-off message for the end of the videos on this channel. So, later.